Okay, we just finished the fourth directory. We're going to move on to number 5, XML. Now this is very important, so you can use this on the challenge. So for challenge, you need to grab XML. And I recommend using this code for the challenge. So if I open this up, index.html, I'm going to use AJAX to grab an XML response. Now it's still the same. I create an AJAX object. I set up what happens when I get the response. I will open up the AJAX request, and I'm going to send that request. So in this case, I'm using get, and I'm going to send it to movies.xml. Now, what's important when I'm using XML, they have a different way to grab the response. So if I want to grab an XML response, I'm going to create one called XML doc. I'm going to still use my AJAX request object, but instead of response.text, I'm going to do response.xml. Now this is the whole name AJAX, because remember it has XML in the name. So the original way to grab data was this response.xml. Okay, so this will grab or get the XML document. Now you're going to want to get used to having this output variable, because you're going to need to do this for the challenge. I have a variable for our output, and I'm going to keep concatenating that, because if I open up the XML, let's look and see what it is. So I'll update the code, open up movies.xml, and you'll see this is an XML document. So I have my doc type, which I have in HTML as well, and I have my parent, which is movies. Inside movies, I have each individual movie, and each movie has a title and a year. So this is my XML document, so you'll see title and year, next movie title and year, next movie title and year. So I come back to index.html. I'm going to collect all those titles and years, and I'm going to parse through them and output them to the display. So here's how you do it. So I'm going to create a variable called movie titles. I'm going to use the XML doc. They actually have a parser, so I can do what's called get elements by tag name. And let's say I want to grab the titles. So I'm going to grab the title, and it's going to be, all the titles are going to be returned in an array to the movie titles. So movie titles will be an array of all the titles that we selected. So let's print this out and see what we have. So if I do a console.dir, I'm going to print out my movie titles. Okay, so save the code, come back here, update the code. On the browser, go to that code, which is going to be number 5, XML. Click on it, right-click the page, so click on the button, right-click on the page, do an inspect, and open up the console. Now the console has an HTML collection of 8. So you see I have 8 titles. If I open up the first one, I have inner HTML, but that's not what I want to use to grab the value. I'll actually use child nodes. Okay, I only have one child, so I'm going to open up the text for that child, and it's going to be the node's value. Okay, I'm going to grab it from the node's value. So let's see how this is going to work. Remember, movie titles is an array or a collection. So I'm going to have a for loop, var I equal to 0. I'm going to say I is less than the movie titles length. Okay, we saw the length earlier. If I open this up, we'll see length is equal to 8 right here. Okay, so it's going to go from 0 to 7. And I'm going to increase. And here's what you need to do for the challenge. You're going to take that output string and you're going to concatenate each of the movie titles. So let's see how we can grab the movie titles. I'm going to access the first movie title. Then I'm going to access the child nodes. Okay, they only have one, so I'm going to do child nodes 0. And then I'm going to do the node value. And then I'm going to add a line break. Now in the challenge, it's going to be an unordered list. So in the output here, I'll have an unordered list, and every time I concatenate to the output, I'll concatenate a list item, and then I'll close the list item. Okay, once I have my output, I'll grab the movie box and change the inner HTML to all the movie's titles. So let's save this, update it with FileZilla, refresh the page, click on Get Movie Titles. You'll see they're here. Okay, so I've gone with the win all the way to He's Just Not That Into You. Now let's say I wanted to put this in an unordered list. So I do something like this. I have an unordered list. Every time I'm going to add a list item, okay, and then I'll put the movie title in the middle, and I'm going to close the list item. And at the end, right before I put it on, I'll make sure I add my close tag, and then I'll go ahead and display that to the output. So this is what you need to do for the challenge. If I upload the code, refresh, click on it again, you'll see it's a nice unordered list. Okay, now a student asked me, how can we grab the, in class, a student asked me, how can we grab the title and the year? They said, should we grab the movie and then access the title and the year? Now you can do this, but once you grab the movie, you actually need to then go and parse the XML by yourself on the front end. So once I have movie, now I have two children. I need to figure out which child is the title, which child is the year, and then I need to actually grab that text from that XML tag. So in my opinion, an easier way, you'll see title and year, they're both the same length. So if they're both the same length, you can actually use the XML parser. So here I can grab the movie years as well, use the XML doc. So this is my parser, get element by tag name, and I can put year in here as well. So I can grab the year. Now we can assume they're the same length. But if you don't want to assume they're the same length, I can have two for loops, or I can also have an if statement to check whether they're null. Now if they're not the same length or you're missing a year, now this code may have a problem. But this is what you need to do. So let's say I have the title. I'll add a string here. So let's say I say the title was created plus, now I'm going to grab the year. So I'll say movie years. It's an array, so I'm going to grab the ith term. Remember to access the child nodes, 0, and then the node value, which is going to print out the year, and then make sure you end the unordered list. So the challenge is looking for something like this. So if you need to grab two values, just parse the XML document twice. Okay, so now when I get the titles, you'll see Gone with the Wind was created in 1939. Space Oddity was created in 1968. So I'm grabbing the year and the title. Now, you can do this differently. So this would be the easiest way. Maybe you grab the movie and then look for a title and year, because maybe one of the years is missing. So in this case, if I comment out a year and update the code and refresh and try to run it, okay, you'll notice that the date is still printing out. Now, a lot of times the browser will cache your page. So if I copy this link, open up an incognito window by clicking the three dots, new incognito window. This is a browser that will not cache your page. So if I load this page, okay, you'll see nothing loaded. If I open up the console, you'll see that I have an error here, child nodes of undefined. So I tried to look for this year, couldn't find it, code crashed. So this may not be a good example if year and title do not have the same length, or if there's some there that are some missing. What I could do is put an if. I could check to see if year or title is equal to null. Okay, if it's null, I can do a continue, which will go to the next iteration. If it's not null, I can print out the values. Or I could have two for loops, or I can grab the movie and parse it on the front end. So there's a lot of options. Okay, but for the challenge, I do believe that the links are the same. But you want to have robust code. So figure out a good way to grab this XML, okay, and make sure that the content looks nice on the page. Okay, make sure the content looks nice on the page. Okay, there's my titles and dates. I have the string in the middle. And this is what you need to do for the XML portion of the challenge. Now, some students use jQuery. For the XML part of the challenge, I recommend using this part of the code because basically for the challenge, you can change this link to my server. Okay, remember you're using my server, so you can change this link, change the tags that you're going to grab, and change the way that you do the output, and make sure you update the right part of the page, and it's good. So everything else you can leave the same. All you need to do is change the tag names and change the link, and you can pretty much use this code here. Make sure you change the variables up, okay? Make sure you fix the code up, but the main parts of the code that you need to change are the link and the tag names. So what you can do on my server is open up that link in the browser and look at the XML and see which tags you need to grab. That way you know which tags you can grab and how you can update the page. Okay, so I recommend using this code for the challenge. Continue on to the next part of the challenge. Continue on to the next video so we can figure out how to implement the next part of the challenge. We'll see you in the next video.